I'm so excited to talk to the two of you because New Life is one of my favorite movies of this year, and y'all absolutely carry this in such incredible ways. So it's very exciting to talk to two incredible women today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start with Hayley. What like attracted you to this script when it came across your proverbial desk slash email?
I really connected to it right off the bat. I enjoyed reading it. I mean, I just tore through it. I couldn't have read it faster. And then I read it again because I thought, oh my gosh, like there's got to be, am I missing something? Like I couldn't believe what I had just read. And I just really connected to Jess. I felt like there was so much nuance to the character and that she really could exist in so many ways that I was so excited to put my stamp on it and to figure out, there's not that much on the page. I think there are only a few scenes
Yeah.
of just actually even conversing with other people. So just as an actor, it was a really fun and exciting role to just unravel and to build from the ground up. It was such an enjoyable experience.
And then Sonia, same for you, especially, but you have the added experience of playing someone who's going through the beginning stages of ALS. And I was curious what that was like for you to tackle this role, and also if there was any research you did and what that process was like for you in playing your character.
Yeah, um, I mean, I think I'm always drawn to a character that has a secret, and this secret is so um, embedded in the plot, and it felt just like this super interesting parallel that John had created between these two women whose lives are unraveling in very different ways. And they're both determination to sort of stay alive and keep a life going at all costs. So, so before I accepted the role, I said to John, I want to talk. So we had a couple of Zoom calls where I said, I will only take this on if we do the ALS really properly.
Yeah.
I don't half-ass this. I don't want to get this wrong. And couldn't have been in more agreement. And in fact, a lot of this is inspired by a friend of his. And he put me in touch with Lisa Cross, who is the woman who I actually have a scene with later on in the movie when Elsa has her scene with a sufferer and her caregiver, the caregiver you
Yeah.
see again at the end. That is Lisa on camera that I'm talking to. And um, Lisa was just so wonderful and so honest and with such a glorious sense of humor and like, yep, this is how it is. Yep. And hold that. You can't even hold the pencil like that. You got to hold the pencil like this. I mean, she couldn't have been more um generous and just it sounds so corny, but the woman is just radiant. She is just so full of light. I hope I live a life as light filled as Lisa lives, regardless of any outcome, And so Lisa was a little bit my beacon, and I worked with her just a little bit, but mostly I took notes because I really didn't want to deplete her in any way.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a real that was she was a very important touchstone for me in making this film.
Yeah. I lost a family member to ALS, so it was so
Oh,
incredible
so
to
sorry.
see. Yeah, thank you. Like, but to see it taken like as it is, as something that you can have a sense of humor about, you don't see that a lot with disability in horror. And I know that this movie's about a lot of other things, but it's so important to me to see disability taken this way, and like
Mm,
especially a degenerative one like this. So I just wanted
mm.
to say that because it's great to see these kinds of things, as hard as they are, shown for what they really are and like the
Thank
realities
you.
of them. Yeah.
That honestly means more to me than any compliment we've had. So I'm really glad.
Of course. Well, and I know that the two of you, this movie's about the two of you, but you don't interact a ton on screen. But were you guys like, how did y'all kind of form your relationship like off camera? I'm assuming you guys didn't film together a lot or were on set even on set the same days. Like,
We
how
had
many days did you actually get together, like actually in
It's like a
person?
Venn diagram, kind of like
Yeah.
the spot in the middle.
she has to, I mean, it's all about, as I'm sure you know, with filming, it's all about the location, right? So
Yeah.
whatever location you're on, you're going to shoot out those days. And
Yeah.
both of us are, by the nature of it's a pursuit movie, so we're on the same locations all the time, but only in one time are we both in the same place at the same time. So we had some overlaps where we would just hang out on set, and I'd wait for her to shoot her, you know, terrorized scene, and then I'd go and search for her through all the same rooms she'd just been in, and you know, so there was some overlap there, and then there was the day that we shot the finale sort of big moment, which was for Hayley was you know, was her first day on set, which was an epic.
What?
Yeah.
It was
So you
incredible.
have to like bring the energy of an entire movie on your like the
Yes.
culmination of an entire movie,
On
and
day
the
one.
ending is a
It was
lot. On day
amazing.
one?
Yeah, it was a great challenge. And, you know, I'm so grateful that we had that big long drive to Joseph. I think, what was it, like 6 hours or
5,
something?
6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if I've ever even told anyone this. I was like, I'm just gonna get myself as like grounded as like, you know, in touch with my emotions as I possibly can. And I just listened to Joan Didion books the whole way there.
So good. So good.
That's
I was like
incredible. That
raw.
is incredible.
I was like,
Brilliant idea.
yeah, and it was this great period of time that I had to just kind of like chew on so many big ideas and, you know, grief. And it only really just occurred to me in this conversation now, one of the main similarities between the characters is that they're grieving their lives while they're alive. And so this idea of grief, I hadn't really put it into words before, but I think that that was a major element for me, was this kind of huge concept of grief. And yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that you said that about grief, because obviously there's some horror elements we won't get too into, but a lot of this film is very grounded and about both of your emotional states. And it's like really it's always so fascinating to see characters both living or acting in a drama, but also a horror movie, but also an action movie. And I was curious if for either of you what that was like from like a mental level of like trying to kind of hold all of the genres in your head, if that was ever a challenge, or if it was just on the page and there wasn't any challenge with that at all.
I'm not a genre girl. It's not my
Okay.
thing. I scare really, really easily. I scared
Okay.
watching this film where I was in it and knew every single thing that was going to happen. And I'm still holding a cushion and gripping my husband's arm. And he's like, get off, you know what's happening. And I'm like, I can't, you know. So I tend to, and this is true of everything I've ever done, I tend to immediately forget the genre as fast
Okay.
as I can. I don't
Cool.
want to know if it's a comedy or a drama. I want to play each moment as it comes. I want the opportunity to make you laugh in a deeply dark scene. I want the opportunity to make you cry in the middle of it. I tend to, for myself, dissolve all the labels I can and just go moment to moment for
Oh
me.
yeah. Cool.
That's beautifully said. I think one of the great things about it being a horror is that that is not the thing that we're doing. I think the horror comes, and what I was so glad was that everything was practical. So all of the effects, everything that we're reacting to, there's no tennis ball, you know, we really just got to show up and experience what the characters were experiencing. And those effects were
Astonishing.
horrific. So it was really, yeah, it wasn't something that I felt that I had to put a lot of effort into, because it was right there.
That's awesome. And Hayley, you do a lot of like running and jumping through things and, you know, lots of escaping. What were the stunts like for you versus a stunt double? Did you do a lot of stuff yourself? Like I'm always curious how that works.
Thank you for asking. I'm so excited to talk about this. I always wanted to do stunts. I was so happy that John trusted me to do everything. So there was one day that there were some stunt people there to do this fight scene, the fight scene with Molly. And I was like, I want to try. And so I ended up doing the whole thing. And I think they were very bored that day, the stunt people. I don't think they got they got to get up.
Wait, that's so cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was such a new challenge for me. I'd never done anything like it. And particularly the running. I'm not a runner. I'm not even particularly in shape. The running was so difficult, and I was in these big boots. And
I was gonna say you're like full hiking gear in a backpack. You weren't even like
yes,
you were in like a whole outfit.
And it was in the middle of this field where cows had been grazing, or that was where they were turned out. And so there were these big holes from the hooves. So you're like traversing this uneven terrain, but also incredibly large, just mud pies.
I was gonna say.
So I was running as fast as I could, dodging holes and poo, and like it was so intense.
It's very glamorous to be an actor. I love it.
My whole body. I mean, I've never been so sore. That was like quite the physical peak of my time on this earth. Like,
well, and then like Sonya, you have a very different role in terms of physicality, but like I mean, you obviously had some guidance about how to move your body, but what was it like for you to practice certain things with using a mobility aid the right way, or when your hands freeze? Like what was that physicality kind of training, if that's the right word for it?
Yeah, that is the right word. I am one of my things that I did that I'm really grateful for, which is just so practical and boring, was, but I knew that script inside out. I knew every single word of it back to front, so that I did not have to worry about the lines. I just knew that I had so much to do with my body when I got to set that there was absolutely no way that I could be there still checking lines or whatever. I mean, I always know my lines, but I knew them in a way that was like bananas. And so when John would come to me and be like, I have a tweak for this, I was like, no changes, nothing. We shoot it as it's written, dude. We're not changing a word unless I make a change, but no. And so yeah, and so it's quite strong-willed, but but there's a lot to manage. I mean, just anyway, to any time, you've got a gun and then you've got a cane, and then you're going to add a hazmat suit, and then the hazmat suit fogs up every time that you breathe, so then camera can't see you in it, and so then we have to sort of wipe it down. And this was where I just finished playing Molly Cobb on For All Mankind, so I played the first woman on the moon in that show, and so I just spent 3 years in a damn suit. I couldn't believe I was back in a suit again. I really couldn't. I was just like, are you kidding me? But what the good part was that I had all these hacks that we'd learned on For All Mankind, because all of those astronaut things kept fogging up, and we'd have the same thing. And when you're in an intense close-up, when you're in a wide, you can crack the helmet lid if you like, so it doesn't, but if you're in a close-up, you can't crack the lid. So we learned about making vents in the back so that you could get circulated air. We learned to have a little fan that was sitting in the back of your helmet to get circulated air so that you didn't have a fogged up helmet. And so I was able to bring like just some of the technical, practical bits that I'd learned, because nobody on set had worked with a hazmat suit.
Lucky are they that they like it. What would they have done without you?
I'm not sure. But anyway, we'd have made it. I'd have probably ripped the hazmat suit off a lot earlier. But anyway, it was great. It was super great to be able to be like, actually, guys, I know how this works. We need an X-Acto knife. We need a tiny rip, and then it'll all work out.
That's incredible. I love that. Yeah. I'm going to use that. If I ever have to do something with a hazmat suit or a helmet, I'll just keep that tucked into the back of my brain.
Right. That's right.
Well, thank you both so much for chatting with me about New Life. I'm so excited for people to see this. I saw it last year, and I'm finally going to be able to like really beat the drum for it. So I'm so stoked.
Thank you. Thank you for support.